So it's that program you've always wanted to learn, but never quite knew how to approach it. But it's definitely that program all your employers want you to know. Yes, I'm talking about Autodesk Revit. And my goal for each and every one of you watching this is to learn some basic principles for the program so that if you work in either an office, whether architectural or engineer or wherever, that you'll be comfortable applying some of these things to work on any project that you're given and being comfortable navigating the program. So we're going to flip over to my screen right now. So before we do our deep dive into the program, there's 3 things I wanted to go over. The first thing is that Revit is the type of program that you learn progressively or you learn by using it. So what that means is that the best way to really learn this program, learn some of the principles, is by making it into a small project, which is what I'm going to do. You start off by making a floor plan and then you add other components and you add more components. And the more components you add, the more you will have to use different tools in the program. I won't need a schedule, for example, if I don't have a floor plan, if I don't have furniture, if I don't have rooms in order to actually schedule or make tags from it. The idea is that I want everyone following this tutorial to make a save file that you're going to use for the next 6 days in order to create this small scale project. Because in reality, when you go to a firm, whether architectural or engineering, the way you use Revit is progressively. So you start off with a floor plan, then you build on that. You add your windows, your doors, furniture, then you add materials, you add a wall cavity, you do section, you do detail. You have to have all these things before you can start to really use all the more complex components of Revit. So by the end of these 6 tutorials, my goal is for each of you to know some of the basic components of Revit enough that you can go in a firm, and if someone says produce a schedule, you'll be able to produce a schedule. Modify a wall, you'll be able to modify a wall. Or create this family, you'll be able to create a family. I also wanted to preface that we're going to be working with an architectural template. I have used the engineering template before, so I have some experience with it, but that's going to be for a future video. So now, with that out of the way, now we can really get started. So this is the interface for the Revit home screen. As you can see here, I'm using Autodesk Revit 2018. Me personally, I just prefer using Revit 2018. 2019 for me has a little bit of bugs. Whether you're using an earlier version of Revit or a later version of Revit, you should still be able to follow this tutorial. So first, we're going to go on File, and what we want to go on is this flyout tab near New, and we're going to create a new project. And from Construction Template, we're going to change it to Architectural Template. So here we are. So this is the basic interface for Revit. So I'm not sure if this is your first time opening Revit or if you opened Revit before, but your layout might not quite look this way. First things first, look for this minimize panel, and if you click through it, you'll be able to change the layout of the ribbon tab. So we're going to keep it like this for now for this tutorial because I want to briefly touch on these components before we start actually drawing our model. So the first thing you have is the architectural ribbon tab. This is where you have access to drawing your walls, inputting your doors, your window, and here is component, which is going to be very important. There's 2 parts to the component flyout. There is place a component where you can use a default Revit family. Model in place, you're creating the component within the program. And we have columns, your roof, creating floor. So we won't be going over curtain wall system, curtain grids, or mullion systems because I will show you in a future tutorial using Revit conceptual mass over here how to really integrate mullions and curtain walls on complex facades. So I see that to be more fitting for a future tutorial. And this is where we have our railing, ramps, stairs. All these things are so important. Modeling line is something that you could use to draw a basic line. So we won't get into each and every single one of it by explanation, but the beauty about Revit is that if you just hover your mouse over each of these icons, they give you a basic definition of what each of these tool does and show you an example on the screen of how it can be applied. As we're going through the tool, I'll give another basic explanation of what it does. That's how we're going to progress in this tutorial. So we're going to begin by making sure that you're on your architectural tab in the ribbon. You should be able to perceive each of your views under the project browser window, which you're going to have your floor plans, and you can always make more floor plans. You're going to have your ceiling plans and your elevations. And in order to make a section, what we would have to do is go to view, and we're going to go to section right here. But we're going to get into that just a little bit later. Making sure that you're on your first floor plan, what we're going to do is click the wall. It doesn't matter what kind of wall you have selected. We're going to stick with the basic generic wall for now. And I want to say this first, for the sake of continuity, you're more than welcome to draw what I have on my screen. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to draw whatever type of floor plan you want. But the idea is to follow these principles in order to understand the program. So I'm going to start off by drawing a wall. Click here. I want this side to be 40, let's say 40 feet. And then we're going to keep drawing. And this side, let's make it 15 feet. And you don't have to put the feet tick mark. Revit is automatically going to register it as feet unless you specify if it's inches or another unit. So now let's make this 25. We're going to do this 40. 25. And let's do this 25 as well. Make this 22 feet. And this could be 10 feet. And this could be 18 feet. And then we're going to close it like that. And just hit enter. And we have our basic walls drawn out. What I might do is just highlight everything. And let's just shift it over here to the center. So now we have that in the center here. And now the first thing we're going to want to do is actually make a grid. A structural grid is very important, especially when you want to denote different areas where there's going to be a column or where a point load is going to be, or you want to indicate a load bearing wall. And structural grid is just something that you're going to have, especially when you're working on larger projects, when you're inside a firm as well. So we're going to create a structural grid. And if we look at our structural lines, we have one going here, we have one going there, there, and there. And in the X direction, we have it going here, 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 and here. So let's start off by drawing our grid like this. And now we're going to draw our grid in the X direction. So in order to change the annotation, the tag within the bubble, all you have to do is double click and you change it. Let's make this A. And as we continue to draw it, it's going to follow this ABC format instead of the numbering format. Now we have our grid. But the first thing I want to actually show you before we get into anything else, because there will be situations where, let's say you're making a grid and you just draw it and then you want to design based off the way the grid is laid out. I'm going to show you two tools that you can use in order to change the dimensioning of the grid, or if you want the grid spacing to be equal. These are two tools that you can use. So one thing you can do is go up here. At the top, you should see something called the Align Dimension tools. So what you will do is, let's say, draw a dimension, you click, draw your next one, click, and same thing for the last one. And then just go here to see where you want to place it, and then you click. One way is to click the dimension line that we just drew, and you see the toggle with the EQ with the slash. You just want to click it, and it's going to untoggle that, and it's going to equally divide each of these structural grid within the space. Another thing you can do, let's say I wanted to create a specific parameter for all dimensions that are 18. Let's say many of these are supposed to be 18 feet. So what I would do is go on the Align Dimension tool, click here, hit escape twice on our keyboard to get out of a command. And now we're going to click our parameter, and what we're going to go on is here under this green modified tab. While this is selected, you're going to see something called label. Labeling is so important in Revit because it allows you to create parameters. What a parameter is a special set of requirements for whatever category you're looking into. If I click create parameter, you see our parameter group falls under dimensions, and we want to leave it here on dimensions because we're working with a dimension right now. And we're going to call this dimension 18 foot spacing. Let's just call it that. So now what I'm able to do is I could set other parameters to equal this label. Now we have a created label here. So let's click on the align dimension, and let's say we have like a few more areas like this that we measured out. But let's say now we want each of these areas to be 18 feet. Are we gonna have to go modify it, double click on the number and change it? No. All we have to do is hold Control on your keyboard to select multiple objects, click on both of these dimensions, and now what we can do is apply a label to it that we made, the 18-foot spacing, and it will automatically be aligned to the 18-foot spacing. And now let's hit undo on this. So now let's draw dimensions for each of these. If your scale is too big or too small, what you can do is click here on the scale beneath here, and you can always change it that way. You can make it larger, or if you want to just make it something smaller, like a 3/16, if that works for you. I'm going to leave it on 1/8 to continue forward with this tutorial. And after we draw in each of our dimension, the next thing we want to do is actually lock them, because we don't want the grid to shift. This is going to be our final dimension for our grid. So we're going to click them, hit lock. Likewise with here, hit lock. So the next thing we want to do after locking each of these is to highlight everything, and then we're going to hit, while still under the modify tab, we're going to click here, pin. And now the entire thing cannot be moved whatsoever. And now looking at the grid, it pops up a little bit too much. We want most of the focus to be in our floor plan. So what we're going to hit on our keyboard is VG for visibility graphics, and the structural grid falls under the annotation category. So here we're going to click annotation categories, and we're going to scroll down to grid. So where we see grids here, we're going to click halftone, which is going to lighten the line weights and make it look gray. So we'll hit OK. And now it's a lot lighter and it's a lot easier to work with. So now the next thing we're going to do actually is go to our elevation. So we're going to start with, let's say, our west elevation. So on our west elevation, what you can see is that this is a 2-story structure, what we have so far, and you see the datum. So what you can do here is change this if you want your floor to ceiling height to be taller, or if you want it to be a little bit shorter or anything like that, you can change it here. But what we're actually going to do, we're aiming to make this structure, let's say 3 stories. Now what I'm actually going to do here is under the architectural tab, you're going to see something called level. So we're going to click level, and what we're going to do is line it up here, and we're going to make a 3rd level over here, just like that. So what we want to actually do is change the name of each of these. So we can call this ground floor. Yes. We're going to name level 2, let's call it the bedroom. And then we're going to call the 3rd level, let's call it attic and gym. What we're going to have to do is actually add an additional level, and the additional level is going to be for our roof. So what we're going to do is, while clicking Control, we're going to drag this, and we're just going to place it here. And then we could change the height manually by clicking inside this box. And we want the roof level to be, let's say, 35 feet. So perfect. Let's actually change the name to roof. Now we have our roof annotation drawn out. But if we look here, something's a little bit off. We only drawn our floor plan on the first floor, but then we can see that this spans 2 stories. So if we click here, we can see that the unconnected height is 20 feet. So we want to modify the height from 20 feet to 10 feet. So if we go back to our floor plan, let's go on ground floor plan. What we're going to do is highlight everything, filter, and we don't want the grids to be there, even though the grids are locked. So what we want to do is click here and change the unconnected height to 10 feet. So now if we minimize this window and we go to our west elevation window here, we can see now everything lines up with the 10 feet marker. Now what we're going to do is go to each of our floor plans and we're going to begin to draw it out. So we have our floor for the ground level. Now let's go to the bedroom level floor plan and let's begin to draw it out there. So the reason why this is grayed out because it's showing what's below. And now what we're going to do is go on the wall tool and we're going to continue drawing for the bedroom floor plan. So let's say we want it to be something more like this. We're going to outline it this way. And now we have our second floor drawn. So looking here, what we can actually begin to do is modify this so that we don't have to look at what's below. The way we can hide what's beneath is by going over here to our properties tab, and what we're going to do is scroll down and let's go here to underlay. And the range of base level means how far down can you see from this floor plan. So what we want to do is click this arrow and click none and then hit apply. So then now this is hidden and this will be a lot better for our workflow. So now what we want to do also here on the second level, VG on your keyboard, annotating categories, and we're going to scroll down all the way to grids. And what we want for the grids is the halftones. And let's hit apply. But then there's another thing we have to make sure we change. We're going to highlight this, filter, let's get rid of the grids. And now what we're going to do is change the unconnected height. We only want this to be 10 feet. We don't want it to be bigger than that. So now we're gonna go to our attic and gym story. And now that we're here, what we wanna do is actually begin to draw what's underneath. So what we're going to quickly do is actually bring back what's underneath just so we could see it in order to draw it. So we're going to bring back the bedroom level and begin to draw the floor plan for the attic story. So the way we're going to do it, let's click on the walls. Let's begin drawing here. We want it to be about halfway, which is about 15 feet. And then we want it to intersect with this part of the grid line. So this is why your structural lines are so important, because now it's serving as a reference point for me to draw the third level. And then we'll close it right here. And this will be our third level. And then we could go to the view template. We could go here to underlay. And then we could just click none and hide it that way. And then once again, we want to select everything, filter, let's get rid of the grid from our selection, and we want to make sure the unconnected height is 10 feet. Apply. But just in case you don't want to keep highlighting everything and changing the unconnected height that way, when you click on wall, before you draw it, you can actually set the height to whatever you want beforehand instead of having to highlight it afterwards. And instead of having it as unconnected, if this is a succeeding floor, you can have it automatically connect to one of your desired floors that way. So what I'm actually going to do is highlight this, hit filter, turn off the grids. Instead of putting in the change in the height to 15 feet, I'm going to have it connected to the roof. That way, if I change my roof level, the connected height is going to change automatically so that this always meets the roof. And this is such an important tool. You always want your walls to be connected to a height. If it's not connected to a height and you change the height of one of the levels, that level is not going to be changed and it's going to remain reduced. So always try to connect it to some sort of reference point. So we're going to have this connected to the roof. roof, and I'm going to demonstrate. So you see, if I'm to change the roof level right now, you see this height will always adjust itself to make sure that it reaches the roof. But now let's say we change the roof level and attic and gym level. You see, this doesn't adjust because this had an unconnected height. This is why we want to always make sure there's a connected height. That way, if you ever change one of the floors, it will always adjust its height in order to meet the next level. So what we're going to do, we're going to highlight all the floors here, filter, turn off the grids, make sure the wall are selected, and we want the connected height to be towards the attic and gym level. Highlight here, likewise, filter, we don't want the grids to be part of the selection, and we want the connected height here to be towards the bedroom level. That way now, if we're to adjust it, boom, everything adjusts. You see? Everything adjusts. It's so important. So please try not to forget this when you're doing your projects. While we're still in this view, we also want to, let's unpin this. We also want to actually extend this. And let's highlight. We want to unlock all of these. What I want to do is highlight it, shift it upwards. And now we're going to pin it all again. Let's pin this one more time. All right, let's go back to our floor plan level. Everything is lined up. That's perfect. Now we can move on to the next step, which is adding our doors and windows. So for adding our doors, we're going to click on the architectural tab and we will click door. And this floor plan is not necessarily something I planned out in advance, or it's not necessarily a project I've done before. So it's something I'm designing with intuition. So I can imagine if this is the street level and we're approaching the house, this could be the entrance, and this could be a living room / a way to access the patio deck that's above it. And you know, here could be your entrance, your kitchen back here, maybe just a public space, you know, maybe your stairs are over here, your entrance to get to the patio is here, maybe there's 2 entrances as well. So based on the intuition, we're going to design it that way. Now when we make a door, the beauty of Revit is that you can always change this. So I could drag this here and it makes our door just like that. Or I can even go and flip it, and I can flip it any which way. Now, another cool thing I want to show you is that when you want to hit back, when you want to undo something, you can hit Control Z, yes, but you can actually click this fly down next to the undo button, and you can see exactly what you're undoing. So let's undo these 2 commands to bring it back here. And we're going to have our door facing outwards because in case of a fire, you always want your doors to swing outwards and not inwards for the occupants that are inside the building. So we're going to have our door here. We're not going to worry too much about the type of door. This is something we're going to adjust in a later tutorial. So we're going to have our doors here. We want 2 doors here. And once again, we're going to modify the type of door after. So let's have a door here. Take this door, flip it. So we have doors accessing the patio. That's going to lead to the backyard. So next we're going to add windows. So in terms of windows, you just have to click next to the door icon. You click on windows, and we're going to, let's go down to the scroll down menu, and let's start with something like a double casement window, which is going to be really good for living rooms. So if we imagine this being a type of living room, we could have it there. And let's actually try to have it in the middle of each of these grid lines. So what we're going to do, we're going to use this as a reference point. Let's place it somewhere about here. And what we can always do in order to make sure it is in the middle is use a dimension line. So we click here, let's drag that there. This is our reference point. And now what we're going to do is make a smaller one. Now what we're going to do is make a smaller one for the door. So this lines up here and this lines up there. And we just want this to be equal. So this is 15 feet and we just want this to be equal. We could equally space it just like that. And it's going to move the window over to make sure it's equally spaced. And we could do the same thing with other windows. Let's place a window here. And let's place a window here. Don't worry too much about where it's placed. We can fix it right now. So boom, we have that clicked there. And let's make another one, align dimensions. Again, align it here to the middle. And this is a good way to make sure your things are equal whenever you want to do that. So all we have to do is highlight this, EQ, now it's in the center, highlight this, EQ, now this is in the center. And we don't need to keep it here, although you can keep it. We're not going to remove the constraint. We always want whatever window we place there, we want the window to be in the center. So let's just hit OK. We're gonna hit OK. We're not gonna remove the constraints. We're just gonna hit OK. Okay, perfect. And then likewise, we're gonna continue this way. So we don't need a double casement. Let's change this. And don't worry, we're actually gonna modify the window as well a little bit later on. But for now, this is the type of windows we're gonna place, just to illustrate how to place a window. Likewise, what we can do, we could use the align dimension tool, click here, and we could use each of these as a reference point. So when you see that blue line in the middle, that's when you want to click, and then we click here, and now we have that. Now in order to make it equal, we just click, hit EQ, and now everything's equally spaced. And that's just a good way to make sure, if you want everything, the distances to be equal, to equally space it, instead of having to draw a reference line, measure, that's going to take way too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fast forward ahead to after I placed all my windows. You can do the same likewise. In case you're following the same model that I'm using, I'm going to leave dimensions for it for you to follow. So now I have my doors and windows in place. You could just take a moment, if you are following this model once again, to input these dimensions. Just pause it and add the windows accordingly in the place that you're adding it. Otherwise, just if you're doing your own example, just arrange your doors and windows where you desire to put it, and we're going to continue forward. Okay, so now I'm going to just undo all these dimensions. So now I undid all the dimensions here. So as we begin to get more detailed with our plan, add furnitures, and work out the second and third level, we're going to begin to maybe adjust some of these windows, change the type of windows, change the doors a little bit. But this is just the basics in order for us to understand how to add things, how to arrange it. And likewise with windows, you can always flip the direction, inwards, outwards. So now moving forward, what we're going to do is actually add a floor. What we have to do is click floor right here, and you can always change the type of floor. You see, so each of these components here are different ways you can actually draw your floor. So what we're going to do is actually use something called pick lines. And you're going to see a blue highlight over the wall. We want to click the inside. You don't want to click the outside. We want the wall to span to the inside. So click pick lines. And this is just one way to begin to draw our wall. Oops, let's undo that selection and let's click the wall outside. So this is one way to do it. Another way to do it is to just draw it manually by using, let's actually hit escape on this. Let's undo all of this. The other way to do it, let's click floor. We can actually just draw it, and drawing it is going to play a big role in the next tutorial that we're going to do when we begin to cover stairs. And then here we go. And then once you finish drawing everything, all you have to do is hit the check to confirm, and there's our floor. So if we go to the west elevation, we should be able to see it. So this is our floor, and our floor is expanding into the ground. And we're gonna begin to mitigate this a little bit later in a future tutorial, but for now, we're going to continue to move forward. So let's go back to our first floor plan, and we pretty much have a decent layout. And now what we're going to do, we're going to repeat each of these steps that we did, adding the doors, the windows to the second floor plan and the attic floor plan. So go in here. So the first thing I'm actually going to do in this view is go here, go to the range. I do want to see the ground floor. And the reason why I want to see the ground floor is because I want to make this deck a patio. So what we're going to do is, let's start with all of our doors, and we're going to add a door here to this corner, and we're just going to flip it. We want it to flip outwards into this patio. So we have our door here, and here ideally is where we're going to have our staircase. Here is probably where we're going to have our bathrooms. So ideally this area is probably going to be where our bedrooms are. So in order for us to really begin to define the rest of the doors and the rest of the windows on this level, we have to begin to draw the interior walls. So we're going to click on wall, but instead of basic 8-inch generic wall, let's make it something more like, let's go with a generic 5-inch wall. And we can always modify the thicknesses of the wall, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. So let's say this back area is primarily going to be where our bedrooms are. So we're going to have it here. And a nice thing about this is that, you see, once you begin to draw your interior walls, you can always change it in terms of disconnecting it. All you have to do is click on the wall. You see this node where it says drag wall end. You can drag it and disconnect it, and you can just make it an opening. So let's drag it back. Now it's connected again. And then let's say this is more of a, let's say this is more of a 2-bedroom house. Maybe this could be our master bedroom, and over here can be maybe a regular bedroom. So let's see what this distance will be. So from here to here, it's about 24 feet. So this could be just a huge bedroom. Maybe we can add a whole walk-in bathroom, walk-in closet. So I'm probably just going to divide my space up like that for now. So we're going to click on walls again, and then we're going to draw it just like that. So ideally this is where my 2 bedrooms are. So let's actually have it meet the wall. And in this corner, we can add our bathroom, which will be a full bathroom. And here is where our stairs are going to be. And I imagine here being our path of circulation. So let's begin to actually draw the bathroom, what that will be like. So typically, a large bathroom can be anywhere between 110 to 210 square feet on average. So you can imagine that being something like 21 by 10, or you can have something that's 11 by 10. What we're really going to do, we're going to try to max this out. So let's have something like this. We're going to go on our architectural tab. We're going to click the wall tool. And what we want it to be is somewhere, we can have this as 11 feet. Let's make this 11 feet. And then we can expand this, let's say something like 16 feet. So 11 by 16. And we have it like that. Quick disclaimer, when you're working on a project, technically you really want to try to have all water appliances on the same wall, which is called a water wall. So ideally on my ground level, I want my kitchen to be somewhere on the back wall with the sink and everything. And up here on this level, I have the bathroom here, which isn't so good. But because it's just a 3-story house, and this is just an example, we're going to just continue that way. But I just want to quickly preface that, because I know that's what some of you may be thinking, and you're completely right. So moving on, we're going to begin to add our doors, and we want to change the dimension of this door because it's like an interior door. It's not like a exterior front door. But once again, we're probably going to change the dimensions for all the doors pretty soon too. So we probably want the entrance to be here, and then maybe likewise the entrance is here for this door. So we have our doors there. And here we can have a door as well on the flip side. We're probably going to place our door here because bathrooms, you want a little bit privacy. You don't want to open this door and look directly in. So let's have our door in the corner right here. And we want this to flip outwards so that we don't take up the real estate inside the bathroom. So now let's look here. So here we can probably fit in like a small closet against this wall here, which we can do it right now. In order to do that, we're going to click wall. And now for wall, what we're going to do once we have it selected, let's click edit type. So what we're going to do is make a new type of wall. We want a specific wall for our closet. So we're going to make a closet wall. So let's hit duplicate, and instead of generic 5-inch number 2, we're going to change it to generic closet wall, and this is going to be 3 inches. And then we're going to begin to modify it by going on edit, and for the thickness we're going to change here, make it 3 inch. Every time you want to make a new type of wall, you always want to duplicate it. You don't want to save over the current wall, what's currently in the Revit program, because you won't have access to it again if you overwrite it. So always hit duplicate, change the name. You can even just leave it as number 2 if you like. So we renamed it, and we're going to hit OK. Now we have a new type of wall, and the width is going to be 3 inches. So you see this? Now it's thinner than the normal interior wall that we have. So we can make this like a wide closet. Let's make this maybe like 4 feet and just make it touch this wall. We're gonna just have it like that for now. So then that's our closet. And then likewise here, we can have a walk-in closet, and we can also have our bathroom. Our walk-in closet could be somewhere like maybe along this edge, and we could have our bathroom along this corner too. So I'm kind of just making this up on a whim. So let's have our closet maybe 6 feet, or it could be like 6 feet. 6, maybe, yeah, 6 feet wide for now is good. And then we have it touch here. And then this room would be our bathroom. Click here, we could go on wall, have the generic 3-inch wall selected, and we'll make our wall just like that. And another way to cancel your command is just to hit modify again, or to hit escape twice. So we have a basic layout at the moment. Let's add our door. So we have it here. This is, that's good for the bathroom. As we begin to modify our door types in the later videos, we're going to get into actually modifying, creating special doors just for the closet. But for now that we have our room defined, we can create our floor and we can create our windows. So let's do that right now, and I'm going to speed through this part. And now the next thing we're going to do, now that we have our windows, now we're going to add our floor. And to do that, we're going to click floor. And then now we're going to use the pick line technique. So let's pick our lines like this. And let's close it. So you might get this notification, do you want the walls to attach to the bottom? We're going to hit no because the floor plate is going to dip down a little bit. We want to be able to modify this ourselves a little bit later, so we're going to hit no, and we're just going to have our floor created this way. And now the next thing we want to do is actually create the floor for our patio deck, which is over here. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to just draw it. So let's go here. We're going to start over here. And we're going to outline it like this. And then we close it. And then all we have to do is hit the check. And once again, we hit no. So now we have our floor for the terrace deck, and we have our floor for the bedrooms and our room division and our doors and windows. So once we finish doing this, we do want to go back here and change the range to none, so we don't see anything that's beneath, and we only see what we need to see right here. So now with that, we're going to move on to the next level. So now we're moving on to this level, the third level. So there is a few modifications we're actually going to have to make, because we made the decision that when we get to draw our stairs is primarily going to come up this way. And to make another stairs going here is going to impede in the circulation in the space. So what we want to do, instead of having to redesign the stairs, what we actually want to do is modify the wall so it matches up and line up with this part of the grid. So all we have to do is click here, and we're going to drag our wall this way. So we're going to go on the wall tool, but let's change it from the basic 3-inch wall, change it back to what we had before, which was the generic 8-inch wall. And we're going to click here, We're going to draw our wall just like that. And now what we're going to do in order to split it, we're going to select this wall, hold Control or Command on the Mac, select these walls. So once you click these walls, you're going to have the Modify tab open up. And now what we want to do is go on the trim corner. We're going to select the walls we want to keep. So we select this wall and then that wall, and that gets trimmed off. So we're going to select this wall, that wall, and now that wall gets trimmed off. And so that's just a really quick way in order to trim the wall instead of having to delete the wall and redraw the whole thing all over. So with that, what we're going to do is define a few spaces. So this, for the most part, is going to be an open floor plan. You know, you can store things here, but also you can have gym equipment, things like that. So ideally, we do want a few windows all around. And what we want is also like a mini terrace space on the top, on the third level as well. So the first thing we're going to do before we add anything is actually define our floors. Because this is an open floor plan, we can start with that. And we're going to go here, and we're going to just use the pick walls, pick lines. And we're going to select these lines and hit check to close, and we'll hit no once again. And now we have our floor inside. And then the next thing we're going to do is define our terrace space. So now we're going to go on the floor plate command as well. And now the way we're going to do it is actually just draw it with a rectangle. Because it's rectilinear, we can just do it that way. So we're going to draw our floor plate, and we're going to make it line up to the edge. And we're going to hit check and no. We're going to leave it closed like this. This is going to be part of the roof space for the bedroom level, but also a terrace space for the attic and gym level. So now we want a way to access it. So the best way to probably access this space, if we think about this being just solely circulation for the stairs, you're getting off the stairs, you don't want to have a door swinging here. So where we're going to add our door is somewhere out here. Let's have it swing outwards once again. So we're going to have our door here. And for the most part, that's all we need to do in regards to doors. So let's add our windows. Let's put 2 double casement windows here. We can think a little bit about cross ventilation. And then we can have these windows fixed. And just like that, so we have our doors, windows, and these things set up so far for the ground level. So now just if we go through each of our floor plan, last thing I didn't do, let's select everything, hold Control, and now let's make sure nothing else is selected, only the grid. And now what we're going to do is hit VG. Didn't turn off the visibility graphics annotation because the grid lines are annotations. And what we're going to do, we're not going to check it off, but we're going to click halftone and just reduce that so this pops up a lot more. And now we can see what we did on each floor. And if we go to the west elevation, now we can begin to see the profile of our building. And the nice thing is that from this profile, you always have the ability to adjust the height. So the sill height is how far the base is from the floor. So if I click on the sill height, you can see the dimensions here. And you can see that the 1 feet here is the sill height. And you can also adjust how high it is from the next level. So what we're going to do is actually adjust the sill height. We can make it even something like 2 feet. Hit apply, and then that's how you can begin to adjust it. The best way to see this, of course, is by going on your one of your elevation views or even a section view once we get into that in order to begin to modify it. So this is what we have right now. Now, the last thing to take a look at is the roof level. So just in case you're having the same issue I am, when we created the new level roof, it didn't pop up here. Because the way we created it was that we copied and dragged. So if copying and dragging it did not create a new level for you, the best thing to do is on the architectural tab, click level. And what we're going to do is we make a new level and we're going to call it roof. And we're going to delete this, and we're going to change the name of level 5 to roof. And we will create a view that corresponds with that view. We're going to put it here. And likewise, we're going to highlight all of this, and we're going to go on to filter, and let's get rid of the grid lines. And let's make sure all of our constraints are to the roof now. So by doing that, you should have the roof pop up if you didn't have it pop up the first time. So that is it for the first part of this tutorial. In the next tutorial, what we're going to do is begin to get into creating stairs, the railing for stairs, the balcony for your roofs, actually making the roofs, and even modifying the floor in order to create cutouts for your staircases. What I want each of you to do is go and hit save as, save project. Let's name this Revit intro small housing project. You can name it the file like that, or you could pick a different name, doesn't really matter. Make sure you save this project. This is so important because in the next tutorial we're going to be continuing from this point as we get into stairs and all these other components. So save it, and yeah, keep the file somewhere where you can have it. I hope this tutorial began to ease you into Revit and you felt a little bit comfortable. Please, any question you have whatsoever, even if it's technical questions, something's not working on your computer, let me know in the comments below. I will reply to everything to the best of my ability and as soon as I can, and I'll help you figure things out and troubleshoot things. So please leave a comment and like, subscribe, and make sure you hit the bell so you do not miss the next upload for this tutorial. So stay tuned, and I'll see you all in the next one.